Okay, guys, in this video, we are going to take a look at an example where we find in the partial derivatives, but we need the quotient rule. All right, so here we have f of x, y, z is equal to 4x minus 3y divided by negative 8y minus z. So it's a function of three variables. Now, let me remind you what the quotient rule says. So if you remember the hi ho son, um, it's going to be ho d high minus high d ho over ho ho. So if that's a song that they made me remember so that I could remember the quotient rule. But basically what it's saying is take the derivative of the top, multiply by the bottom, minus the top, no change, time derivative of the bottom, divided by derivative, not the derivative, just the bottom squared. Okay, so let's take the derivative with respect to x first. So the first thing we do is just gonna write a big fraction and we're gonna square that bottom. Now, of course, the minuses will cancel and become pluses, but that's not important. We just square it, leave it alone. On the top, we're going to take the derivative of this guy with respect to x. So the terms that don't have an x will drop out. So 3y does not have an x, so it'll drop out. Derivative of 4x is 4. And we're going to multiply that by the bottom with no change. Subtract high, which is the top, make sure it's in parentheses, multiply by the derivative of the bottom with respect to x. But the bottom doesn't have an x. None of the terms have an x, so this is just going to become 0. Okay, so what will happen is this is really just going to drop out. And normally I say do not ever cancel that term because of the second term that's in the numerator that will not have that term. But this specific case, actually negative 8y minus z will cancel with negative 8y minus z squared. So one of them will cancel out, and so you're just going to have 4 divided by negative 8y minus z. So that's your fx derivative. That one was pretty easy. I don't know, maybe not that easy, but okay. So that's what I got. All right, now let's take a look at the partial with respect to y. So again, we're using our favorite zone. So we are squaring the bottom. And we're just going to start with the top, take the derivative of that with respect to y now. Okay, so 4x does not have a y, and negative 3y derivative is negative 3. Okay, so we're going to multiply that by the bottom, no change. Make sure you keep parentheses. Subtract top, no change, multiplied by the derivative of the bottom with respect to y. Now, the bottom has a term minus z, which does not have a y, so that's going to disappear because the derivative of a number is 0. The derivative of negative 8y is negative 8 because it's like a line. The slope of that line is negative 8. Here, we cannot cancel that negative 8y minus z because we have one more term that doesn't have it. So you can't just cancel here, but not on the other term because you're supposed to divide both of them. So you can't simplify like that. So you're going to have to leave that negative 8y minus z squared on the bottom. And on the top, let's start distributing and see if we can maybe cancel some terms. So we get 24y plus 3z. Now, this one is going to be actually negative 32x, but there was also a negative over here. So that will actually become plus 32x. And then when we multiply this, we're going to get 24y positive, but then there was a minus again here. So that will be negative 24y. So what we can see is that this and that term will cancel. Nothing else can be simplified. I don't think. So we're just going to have to leave that. And it's kind of silly to leave the negatives in there, but whatever. I mean, when you square it, the both of them will go away. All right. Now, what happens with partial with respect to z? So let's try that one. And again, this is a quotient rule. So we're going to take that whole bottom, square that, and leave it alone. Then we're going to take the derivative of the top with respect to z. But the top does not have a z, so that will become 0 multiplied by the bottom, which of course will just turn into 0 and drop out. then it's going to be minus derivative of the bottom multiplied by the top, no change. So the top is going to be 4x minus 3y. What is the derivative of the bottom with respect to z? So the term negative 8y does not have a z, so it'll drop out. And then derivative of negative z is negative 1, right? Because this is a slope, and the slope is negative 1. Okay, so this part will go away. Let's see if we can simplify a little bit by distributing that negative 1. Actually, this minus and this minus will just cancel out. So I'm going to wind up with 4x minus 3y on the top. So let's put that here. And on the bottom, we're just going to square it. Forgive me for not putting the negatives, because it just, the math person in me just, I can't do that. Just don't ask me to do that, because the minus squared will disappear.